So you set up Beam in 2015.
Yes.
Take us step by step how you set it up.
Gosh. Yeah. Well, first of all, I left the bar, so I had to give 4 months. I had a 4 months worth of work booked up, and to be honest, like I said, I had this epiphany where it was like, go and do this, go and provide a place for these women. And I did not particularly want to leave my job. I earned a lot of money. I had, like I said, I had status. And so I did, I put in, as the time went on, I was saying, what the heck am I doing? I gave up work and I was saying, okay, I'm going to set this thing up. But I didn't know where to begin. And initially I stopped everything. So I stopped, except for impact. I stopped as a trustee. I set that down. I stopped with my mediation business and I stopped the bar. And I remember it was about June, a couple months in, and I laid across my counter in my kitchen. I said, I can't do this. I can't, because I didn't have structure. Most people at the bar are very driven people. You're self-employed. You've got to get the work. You're, busy, busy, busy. And I laid across the counter. I cried. I was like, I can't, I literally can't do this. I don't even know what I'm doing or how to do this. You don't go up to people and say, hey, have you lost your kid? Do you want to hang out? And my son came around and I was like, I had trackies on, my hair is all greasy. He was like, you need to get a job. I was like, I have a job. I have a job. Like, I could go back tomorrow. He was like, what the heck are you doing? And I was like, I'm trying to set up this thing. He was like, well, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm praying about it. He was like, stop praying, just do it. And I was like, he said to me, make a poster. Because he was like, what's the first thing you do? And I was like, post. He was like, make a poster. I was like, I don't have it. He's like, Mom, just make a poster. This is actually
How
the
old was your
first.
son at this
He
time?
was 20. He
Oh,
was
right,
20.
okay.
This is a while back. And he remembers me going on to him like, come on, you can do anything you want to do. And so I sat down and I just made this poster. And amazingly, on that Monday, I met a woman who owned a tea shop in town. And she was visiting Impact. And she was so blown away. She herself had been in care. She was like, what you're doing is amazing. And I said, well, actually, there's something that I really want to set up for mothers. Went and she said to me, you can have the cafe. It's closed on a Monday. You're welcome to have it free. We'll provide tea and coffee. And then that same week, I was talking to a woman I knew. I didn't know her very well. Her name is Shuna McCann. And she and I were taking these young people from Impact to a meeting. And I told her about my desire to set something up for women who've lost their children. Now, remember, I'm American. She is actually Scottish, but she got tears in her eyes. She is a counselor. That's her work. She got tears in her eyes. She said, Cherie, if you ever set this up, I'll come in with you. I'll help you. Because I was looking, I'm like, I can't do this alone. It's not safe to do it alone. And I was like, the fact that she was like showing such emotion, she had counseled women who had their children removed and saw the devastation, saw just what it did to women. And so Shun and I, we had a venue. So we just started putting posters out, contacting solicitors, putting up in various agencies, letting them know. And we prayed a lot of prayers. And on the Monday, I remember looking out the window of this little tea shop, and it was in November, and there was a woman all sort of bundled up in her coat. She's standing. I opened the door. I said, "Are you here for Beam?" And she said, "Is it the women's group, the mums group?" I said, "Yes, it is. Come in." And we had 3 mums turn up, which was
Oh,
incredible in
yeah,
itself. And
absolutely.
that's what we started with. And golly,
How
I
many
could.
do you now have attending?
Well, it just varies, because if you lost a child through death, you could go to a number of agencies across the UK, that whether online or support, and you wouldn't go for the whole of your life, would you? I mean, you would go and receive support and empowerment, and you'd be able to kind of receive what you needed to get through, but then you would move on. So some women will come, for 6 months, some will come for a year, some are still with us 5.5 years later, and they're just amazing. And we keep in touch with many of the moms. One great thing that came out of the pandemic was actually we started a online well-being course, a 12-week course dealing with issues such as honesty, procrastination, depression, overthinking, anxiety, all these sort of things that many of these women have struggled with. But coming to a place like where other people understand, they know, you don't have to say it, you don't have to tell, we actually don't encourage them to tell their stories because it's actually sacred what they have often gone through in their own lives. You just don't share that with anyone. We do work on who is a safe person. Many of them have been betrayed and let down by professionals, and maybe let down by professionals, betrayed by so-called friends. We try to help to rebuild them and help to understand who they are, to understand themselves better.
Do you tackle the issues that led to their children being taken away in the first place? But it seems from what you just said that you don't really dwell on that.
Well, the reality is we are not counseling. So we definitely refer, we definitely signpost them to other agencies dealing with drug addiction, or in fact, some of the mums dealing with particularly high levels of anxiety. We know of other groups that are looking at, well, they provide resources for them. So we absolutely don't try to we network very successfully with other charities that are doing work with mental health, or doing work with substance abuse or domestic violence. So we're out there providing places, but this is peer-to-peer support. So
Yeah.
if you had an illness, or like I said, if you lost a child to death, you could go to a place where other people really understood, or you could say, what treatment did you have? Or how did that go for you? These women, so one example is a mother had her once every 6-week contact with her little boy. And at the end, she came into the group, she sat down, she was really, really upset. And she said, I'd contact. And at the end of it, she went to put her son in the car, and he was grabbed hold of her arm and then grabbed hold of her leg and said, I want to go with you, mommy. I want to go with you. And he said, I want to go with you. And she's crying. She's trying to drag this child off, pull this child off her. And she said, I just want to pick him up and run. And I mean, when she said that, she just started crying. And one of the other mothers, she got up from the other side of the room and she went around and she put her arm around her. She was, I know, hon. I know. And I thought, yeah, you do, and I don't. The reality, I think, when you're at the bar, you just think, yep, this is how the system works. And of course, there are children that do need to be removed. Of course, that's correct. But the scale in which children are being removed, and the ways in which, because of the pandemic, particularly now, it's even worse. There just isn't the support for these mothers, and they don't trust authority. They absolutely don't trust them. And that's a big problem, because if you don't have relationship, how in the world can you work effectively with somebody who's coming in and saying, you take responsibility? A lot of the mothers, like, we don't do that at Beam. We don't say, well, where could you have done things differently? Or because actually no one's taken responsibility for the failures that have happened in their own lives, that people didn't protect them or didn't provide support. And until they get to a place where they feel safe and they feel heard, really, really listened to, active listening is a really important part of Beam, then they can begin to look at, and we've seen transformation. We have absolutely seen transformation.
I was going to ask you about that. And the transformation that I'm going to focus on is in relation to parenting and choices of partner. These ladies go on to have successful relationships? And do they go on to have other children?
In relation to, other relationships, yes, some do. Some choose not to get involved in relationships because actually they're working on themselves, which is a huge step. Well, we have seen women who've actually parted from, all of a sudden they've realized they begin to get strong in themselves. They've got other mothers who are supporting them, encouraging them. And we've seen women separate from partners who've been really, really negative, have had a negative impact on their lives. We have seen women for sure form new relationships. I mean, it's not for me to say whether it's successful. I mean, I don't live with them. I haven't mentioned that, of course, there's something called special guardianship. So if you have a family member, they will be assessed, and children can be placed, and they are placed with family members. But it also adds complications, because sometimes those families want to actually push out the mother. The sister or the auntie or the mother, they want to be mom, and they want to, and it can bring all sorts of difficulties, because the local authority as well will be saying, right, you can't have them come over to the house, you can't have that Christmas, this might be your daughter or your son. So it's quite complicated.
And is there a typical type of woman who would attend BEAM? Do you see any sort of typical traits?
Besides the fact that they've been broken by the loss of their children, they've come because they're seeking for help. But we've had women, I say it's very rare, but we have had women of all different types of backgrounds because of mental health problems. We have had women who, had quite, I would say, well, we have had 2 women who had affluent upbringings, but they got themselves involved, they became involved with all sorts of things that harmed them. But we've also had women who've been in jail. We've had, there's no typical mother, but what they all have in common is they're seeking for a place to be cared for, and I guess to be acknowledged, that they can acknowledge their children, that their children are acknowledged, and they can talk about their children. And we have art therapy once a month, and that's what we call it, art well-being. We have an art therapist come in. That's amazing. And they can kind of get their emotions out on paper. We do trips. We just had our first holiday, and that was incredible. A local solicitor has, I don't know if I can say his name or not, but
he doesn't mind.
Yeah, well, David Wilson Solicitors in Ipswich have been supporting us financially and monthly, which is super helpful. And we took these women on a holiday. The local school here gave us the minibus, and a retired high court judge has a country estate, and they gave us their home for free.
Wow.
It was just some of these women had never been on holiday before. Never. I think of all the holidays, all the places I've seen. And many of them, those who had been on a holiday, hadn't been for a very long time. And it was just incredible. It was incredible. And yeah.
You've mentioned some of the support, some of the practical support that BEAM has received. How is BEAM financially funded?
Well, no volunteer, including myself, receive a salary. And I choose to do that. I could absolutely, trust me, I put a lot of work into this. I choose not to take a salary because I have had opportunity in my life. I've had so many opportunities. What we want to do is we want to employ these women. And some of the women who do some of the work, they come on and do the well-being course with us. Or there's a mom called Rachel who's running a new project that we've set up. Well, she has, and we're supporting her, called Precious Moments: How to Help and Support Mothers in Supervised Contact. And that's another, look at our website, you can see it. So financially, how are we supported? Because we don't have a salary and we don't have premises, our overheads aren't huge, but we've had donations. The local WI, there's a young, vibrant WI called Cake and Revolution, and they fundraised for us. We were their charity of the year. Some friends have helped support. So we operate kind of on a shoestring, but our desire, our longing is to employ these women and to give them roles of responsibility. And we have actually a women's conference coming up, and some activists from London, from a charity called ATD Fourth World, are coming up to do some training with our moms, helping them in progressing their own lives and how to speak to audiences and all the rest of it. So that's going to be awesome.
If anyone watching this would like to donate, how could they go about donating to BEAM?
Well, if you go on our website, I'm, like I say, my main thing is that awareness. That's what I would say. At the absolute, my own heart is for women and those within the profession, those at the early start of their career, to be aware that this exists, that we have a place where online there is support and we can refer them on, but also come physically if they're in Ipswich or in the area. But if you go to our website, www.beam.support, beam like a light, beam like a smile, not bean as in coffee bean, beam, and there's a donate button there. So you're welcome to. We, like I say, every single penny is spent on providing, opportunities for these women. We've been able to put some of them on courses. And one of our moms, actually, Donna, has gone on to do she doesn't have any problem with her name being used, or the fact that she has learning difficulties. She's out there saying, look, if you have learning difficulties, that does not mean you can't go on and do things with your life. She has done so many courses. She's just doing her GCSE English and maths, and she's now got a job at the hospital. And I wish I could show you these women at the beginning. I mean, little eye contact, very low self-esteem, and they get such support. And Donna and Rachel run every week online. They run a coffee bean morning for moms all around the country. I just join in, I participate. They have all sorts of topics. So yeah, on our website, you can find out all about what we do and what we offer. And it's amazing, and they're amazing.
And so are you. I know you through my friend Janice. Janice mentioned you, and I did some research, and I thought, my goodness, you are a force of nature, and the work that your charity does is incredible. Where do you see the charity going in the future? Where would you like to see it?
I'd really love, and we are supporting other groups in the country to set up. We don't want to be this kind of Leviathan, this huge charity that's really unwieldy. You see some of these big charities with turnovers of millions. Kind of funny because we're dealing with the hundreds, but they become very unwieldy. What we want to do is we want to be a network, so light on our feet, supporting other people. If you're interested in setting up something like this, come to us. We'll provide resources. We'll tell you where we got things so wrong, and where we got things right. And I'm making it sound really easy. It wasn't easy. It was really hard at the beginning. There wasn't trust. You have to build that, and that takes time. And also, some moms, are very, very angry. They've got a lot of anger, and you have to be able to manage a group of women with different personalities. But what we found is that loving these women without judgment was that they sensed it. They knew there was no motive outside of being a caring, loving place for them. And that's what we do. And yeah, but it's we've had some moments, I can tell you, but it's been amazing.
Well, Cherie, I would like to thank you so much for allowing me to interview you and to share, and also for sharing the work that you do with BEAM. And hopefully people will reach out to you, make donations, support the work that you and your volunteers are doing, and support these women. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I guess I would finally say this, is that if it wasn't for the bar, if I hadn't gone to the bar, I really wouldn't have understood. I think that's a real benefit, because I have read many of their psychological reports and been through countless cases of the type of things these moms would have been through. So I'm grateful to the bar. I think it's it was a wonderful career, and it was really hard to let it go, but now this is my legacy, and I'm super grateful. I thank God every day for it.